in Portugal. There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know.
Hola, bom dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show. Not a live stream, but definitely a podcast and a little bit of a Substack that we're experimenting with as well. Wishing you a boa semana on this, the 19th of May, 2025. And we are, well, it's already in progress. The real estate revolution has already started here in Portugal. And at the forefront of this great change in Portuguese society is my great friend in the north of Portugal, Vitor Costa. Let's bring him onto the screen.
Hello, everyone. Yes, that is true. Me joining real estate has been causing a bigger impact than the current elections. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you make mention of the big battle of the weekend, and of course, Sporting won that. No, we of course talking about the general election here in Portugal. Yeah, before we get into the real estate revolution, Vitor, and tudo bem? Great to see you here.
Tudo bem.
What do you make of the results in the election? Now, I'm not asking you to share your own personal views, more to be a little bit of a guide to the foreigner who's thinking, oh my God, the far right in Portugal, this is terrible.
Well, I'll try and put this as neutral as I can, as
Excellent.
if I was an alien looking into the planet and what's going on, right?
With Portuguese glasses on. So, through the lens of a Portuguese citizen for the
right.
benefit of us estrangeiros.
Right, exactly. So I've been seeing this a bit all over the world, right? Sometimes I see what's going on with politics, media, and everything in many countries. It's kind of like a hobby, right? But
Yes.
One thing that I notice is that it seems like every time people stop listening to the concerns someone has, whether they think they're valid or not,
Yes.
they just make the problem worse.
Yes.
So what I think happened here is that, as you can imagine, I've always worked with all kinds of people, right? Even from the US, I've felt Democrats, Republicans, trans people, cowboys, you name it, right? I love working with all kinds of people, figuring them out, seeing how they think and work. As long as they're good people, I'll work with them. Mm-hmm. If they're weird in a bad way and want to harm someone or are like erratic and unable to be worked with, which I don't think I've really had so far, then I'm not the right person to help those, right?
Yes, well said.
But what I found is that, for example, I've met many people from all political parties. They all support the parties for numerous reasons. Most of them aren't really tuned in with politics, but they have one or two issues that they really care about.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it seems like there's one specific party in particular that it's just automatic hatred if anybody even dares to not oppose. I'm not even saying support, but not oppose that party. Yes. And they're vilified by everyone and the media and insults. And it's always like the weirdest thing to me is it's always things that don't even seem true. Right. Yeah. One example is that yesterday I saw someone saying that Chega is anti-immigration, and I'm like, I've never seen that happen. I know that they want to be stricter with it, and I think 5 years, and you have to be in the country for 5 years until you get Social Security and stuff like that. But it's just weird. There's no real conversation to be had. It's just. You are not allowed to even support that for any reason. I don't want to listen to you if you assign with that. And so I don't remember who said it, but if you make, peaceful
representations or
peaceful, protest possible, make violent revolution inevitable or something like that.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So, for example, people have been so anti-Chega, everything on the news. I remember one time they were talking about apparently Chega had said something really bad in Congress or whatever it's called. And then they were making news about it and how they were bad and how everybody was chastising them and yelling at them. But what I found interesting is that they never showed what they actually said. They only showed the reaction of other parties scolding Chega, but not
Yes.
what Chega had said, right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
And so, me personally, honestly, I'm not that familiar with everything that every party here in Portugal is doing. I'm just tired of all the dishonesty. I just wish people could start talking about what's going on, talking about their concerns, and even if somebody were to have extremist views, right? So, for example, if somebody would come out and say, "Hey, I think we should, you know, grab all people from this city and send them off into an incinerator," right? Instead of just immediately pounding on the guys like, "Oh, interesting. Would you mind telling me what makes you feel that way?"
Mm.
And then he says whatever his reasons are, and either some of them will be valid, and then it's like, okay, how about instead of the incinerator, we do this instead?
Yes.
Or he says, hey, because they have a nuclear weapon that they destroyed Wakanda, and if they didn't destroy Wakanda, we'd have a great revolution. And then we can tell them, I totally understand what you mean. By the way, that thing was a prank that somebody on the internet did, and Wakanda isn't real. So we
Yes.
don't actually need to send them off to the incinerator, right?
Calm down. Indeed. Indeed. Well, and it's very interesting what you say, and there is a pattern around the world of this, isn't there? And thank you for that. It's very interesting when a party is seen as a threat to democracy, which it may or may not be, but actually the refusal to discuss and understand is the true threat to democracy. I would have thought myself.
No, that's the weirdest thing to me. I keep seeing people talk about democracy, this and that, and it's like, you know, valid or not, you see, I think it was Le Pen that got arrested in France, so she can't run, and she was the primary one. I think in Turkey, the primary opposition guy, also they found a way to get his university degrees basically canceled. And I think in there, if you don't have a university degree, you can't run for president. So
Mm-hmm.
they basically took him out of the ballot on a technicality.
Wow.
Um, and it wasn't Poland, it was maybe Romania or something like that. I think they also like arrested the primary opposition, right? I mean, they did try to do the same with Trump, whether valid or not. So it seems really weird to me that people keep talking about democracy, but it always means the party that I like. Because here's how I see it, right? If a country wanted to elect some violent extremist like German 2.0, wouldn't democracy allow that to happen? If most of the country wanted that, I'm not saying it would be a good thing, but if we care about democracy and everybody wanted to reenact World War II, wouldn't the country have that right? I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't. This is obviously a complicated discussion to have. So
Yes.
we came here to talk real estate, and now we're being political pundits.
I did that to you. I did that. I'm sorry, but you do make a good point, and these are the sort of awkward conversations that should be had.
Yeah.
I hope, and it gets uncomfortable. It gets difficult, but we shouldn't stop by just shortcutting to. All right, no, I'm not talking to you anymore. That's terrible. I'm upset. I'm not talking to you anymore. You're a bad person.
And that's what's been happening for like the last 10 years at least.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
do that,
yes.
people will just hide their real views from you.
Well, that's true.
And,
They'll pop out somewhere else, won't they?
and then their party is going to start winning more and more.
Yes, that's
So,
right. And bad actors, you might say, in politics will be thinking, hey, there are a lot of hidden, frustrated, and angry people. They might like to join our party. And I
that
hate to
too.
say that.
That too, yeah. The more you ostracize people, it's
Yes.
easier for the other side to recruit as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, again, I mentioned I like meeting all kinds of people. In high school, I met some guys that were really shady. I always get along fine with everyone, right? But it's like, for example, I went to in high school. I also went to the sciences and whatever, which was technically what the smart kids went to. But then when I finished the 12th grade, they were opening a new program the next year that acted as if it was the same from 10th to 12th grade all in 1 year, right? And it was tech related, IT, computers, programming. I liked it, so I took it. this this class, it was a mishmash of students from almost every course: arts, tech, sciences, everything was there all in once, right? And some of the more practical courses, like the IT stuff, was more practical courses, practical information. And there was always this stigma that the guys who went to these practical courses, like IT or mechanics or whatever, they were dumber, they were bad
Oh,
people, they were the bad kids, right? And so if you have this view of them, right, even if they weren't, then they will kind of have to only associate with the real bad people because they're the only ones who might take them,
yep,
right?
a societal self-fulfilling prophecy, you might say.
Exactly. So, me personally, I'm just curious about how people work, how they think, what goes on. And it's really interesting, this new political landscape where we have that everybody is always so certain of what they're saying.
Yes.
And I think it's also an internet thing because, so back then, right, before the internet, if you were, I don't know, from one side of the political party and the other, your friends were on the other side. I was going to say a UK reference, but I don't remember the name of the parties there. So if you were on one side and on the other side, right, you would have your disagreements, but at the end of the day, like, they were the people you knew and you hang out with. They were
Yes.
your community, so you
Yep.
would settle your differences. Nowadays, if you go online and you post some more extreme opinions or whatever, whether they're right or not, um, there's always somebody who's going to approve you, no matter how weird you're talking, right?
Yes.
There are people who do, okay, I'm not going to get into details, right? But there's always someone who's going to agree with the stuff you're saying.
Yes.
And so as a result, you no longer have to try and be agreeable with your speech. You no longer have to try and listen to other people, because if you don't share the same views and if you don't agree with them, then I could just cut you off and I have a million other people who agree with me anyway.
Very interesting. I've not seen it from that point of view. Amazing, amazing. We will take this revolutionary political talk into the world of real estate, but I suppose the takeaway is embrace the deplorable. Might be one approach here. See if you can remain open-minded and open-hearted, and maybe better still, embrace your inner deplorable.
I'm just going to end with this. And if you want to pull it up, one of my favorite people throughout history is called Daryl, with a Y,
Right,
Davis, Davis.
right. Not
Daryl
heard of Daryl
Davis.
Davis. Okay, what's the deal with Daryl?
So he was an American black man, right? That he decided that it made no sense that the KKK would hate someone without knowing them. So he actually joined their meetings, became their friends, was part of the community, and he actually got, I think, over 200 Klan's members into giving up their robes. One of them even invited him,
Good
a black
heavens.
man from a white supremacist, right? Invited a black man into their wedding.
Very good. So this is really talking. This is really extending what we're talking about. This is the thing you're
Yes,
talking about in action, right? Embracing
exactly.
your opponent, your enemy, if you like. Yeah, there is actually a documentary. Accidental Courtesy is the name of the PBS documentary here. Of Daryl Davis. Funny enough, in the searches for Daryl Davis, a realtor comes up in the United States. I think that's probably a different person, but there you go. That's where you can find out more. That's one angle on
That's the
this
guy.
incredible situation that Vitor is talking about there. If we can embrace the spirit of Daryl Davis more in our daily lives, how awesome that might be. Yeah, and I'm bringing it back to Portuguese culture, and what foreigners might be fearing with the kind of, the soundbite is the rise of the far right, isn't it, in Portugal?
Hmm.
The situation you mentioned there, and I think the word you might have been looking for is Brexit. But the sense I get in Portugal is that people can still get round the dinner table, the workplace, canteen table, and be civil to each other. People are not moving town to be with people of the opposite political sex, as it were, people are still managing to maintain some sort of discourse and respect in Portuguese society, even though there is political, well, what might be turbulence, maybe it isn't, but Portuguese people remain open-minded, open-hearted in the way you're talking about, generally speaking.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. It seems like it's mostly online.
Yes.
That particularly people on the younger side, maybe,
Okay.
that are getting more kind of scorched earth, as in
Yes.
either you agree with me or you're a fascist or whatever. So,
well, they're the babies of that environment you talk about, aren't they? They are growing up in that harsh environment, and they are. I guess the medium is the message, isn't it? And that social media is no exception to that rule. Wow. Okay. We are talking to the real estate revolutionary Vitor Costa. Useful, I think, to touch upon the political situation, given that well, just so you know what's happening in Portugal, it was a third election in 3 years. The incumbents, as it were, the AD centre-right alliance, have maintained power, but they have had their bi-party situation with the socialists somewhat infringed upon by Chega, who are neck and neck now with the second place party, the PS. So it's an interesting situation for sure. But it's an interesting parliament also in Portugal, which is shared by the representatives, and they'll have to collaborate with each other in some way. Horse trade, collaborate, compromise. And that also, I think, is another great feature of the Portuguese system. And I know Portuguese people can be very cynical about it, but it's all relative, isn't it? It's like it seems a whole lot better than some others that we are aware of in the world.
There's no perfect system.
No, right. Absolutely. It's one of the less terrible ones. Let's call it that. Okay, thank you for your analysis, Vitor. Okay, putting a foot in the door, opening the door, your door into Portugal. Work with Vitor Costa. We'll talk to him again next month. And in the meantime, wishing you and your lovely family very well. Thank you, Vitor. Boa semana. Ciao, ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts.